This is Power Athlete Radio. With your hosts, Denny K, Professor Booty, and the Luke Summers. And now, toes forward, hips locked, shoulders set, and retract those scapulars. It's time for some knowledge bombs.
What's up, Power Athlete Nation? It's been 2 weeks. I'm excited to be back on Power Athlete Radio. I'm here with Professor Booty and the Luke Summers. Guys, what's happening? What's going on?
What's up?
What's up, Denny?
I'm
CrossFit Games, Rich Froning, 3-peat. I mean, is that even, obviously it's possible, but my God, what an impressive, whatever.
an impressive weekend of training. I mean, those guys were suffering. I'll tell you, I guess for those that may not know, the Power Athlete staff is contracted by CrossFit to do the CrossFit football seminar. So by that very fact, we were out there promoting the seminar for CrossFit and got to meet a lot of the people who went to the games. And we were really there firsthand, but we didn't really get to watch as much as we'd like to in first person, because you're out there talking to people who may not know what the whole CrossFit football thing's about. But you can feel the energy near some of the ends of the workouts, or when someone struggled through a power clean and jerk, like you could hear the crowd erupting. And on two veins, it's really interesting that, people joke like it's just people exercising. But at the same time, there's thousands of people in the stand that can relate to the fact that that training has turned into almost a competitive sport, and like the crowd can push you through a PR, and it's just interesting stuff, man. It was tons of fun. A lot of people had a lot of fun, but it was a long weekend. If you ask any of the vendors or any of the SMEs, it was a long weekend out there.
Luke, you bring up what I think is a good point about the crowd there, because at the same time that the games are going on Saturday and Sunday, USAW is having a nationals event in Ohio. I kind of focused more of my attention on the games, but at some point they had a live stream too, so I threw it on there, and Freddie Camacho's girlfriend, China Cho, got to see her get up on a platform. But okay, so that webcast, quiet. It sounds like there's like a crowd of maybe 20 people. Joel, you're kind of lifting in a library. If you watch the clean and jerk ladder in the games, 20,000 people in the stadium rising to their feet when, the athletes got to the end of their, respective ladder, and the crowd knew that what they were about to see was something, of importance that required skill and power. And you got to give kudos to CrossFit for really putting on a good event. And, the fans of the sport who, maybe 20 years ago, you didn't really understand what a clean and jerk was. Those who were outside of that, kind of outside of the box. And I just thought that would, watching the two events, like I said, it's really got to give it to CrossFit for really putting on a huge event like that. And it was really cool.
Dude, they made it sexy. One thing you could compare is the required uniforms of CrossFit versus, the USAW.
Singlet?
Dude, singlets covering way too much skin.
Oh God, the female outfits for the CrossFit Games. I don't even think I paid attention to the female scores. Hey, Stacy Tovar, if you're listening and single, hit me up.
No, it was, I mean, no matter what, like just everybody there, spectators, competitors, like everyone's shredded, dude. Everyone looks great. And like, on the literal sense, CrossFit's made it sexy, and more on kind of the less literal sense in terms of the athletes. Like the venue looks great. The signage is cool. The names of the workouts are cool. Everything about it is just is well packaged, and it's fascinating, man. It's cool. And the other cool side of it, on the other side of the competition and competitive side, there's people, whether it's the spectators that we talk to, who this training system's completely changed their lives. They've made it appealing to suffer and train. And while there's merit in going the extra mile, as long as you're doing it right, you're going to do a lot of great stuff. And we say that time and time again on the podcast. So it's cool. I mean, it's a whole new revolution, man. It's really great.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the psychology of it all is amazing. I mean, Denny, I watched some of the USAW too. I just watched the 69s because Caleb was in it.
Caleb, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations to him.
Well, I mean, after his second snatch, he tweaked his shoulder so bad that after the competition, he couldn't even lift it above his head. But won gold after his first clean and jerk and made the world team.
Made the world team. Awesome.
Yeah. So 128 kilo snatch at 69 kilo body weight. That's legit.
Jeez. Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned. And sure. Smoked a 163 clean and jerk. Easily had 170 in him if his shoulder wasn't tweaked, because he's hit 165 in the gym. But yeah, so it's a different sport. If you've never lifted in an Olympic weightlifting competition, totally different than powerlifting or CrossFit. It's almost like a golf match, right? Yeah, where everyone's everyone's real quiet, focus in. And the thing about CrossFit, the psychology behind CrossFit and the sort of motivation, the fact that people can motivate you after, I mean, when they got to the clean and jerk ladder, they had been through so much stuff. I don't know that I could have clean and jerked 100 kilos. And here we are, Lucas Parker walks up to the 315 bar screaming like a Viking, and the crowd goes ape shit, right? And he works up to 355. I mean, it's just an amazing psychology. It's sort of like everyone's bound together by this. We all bleed together, and it's like the athletes somehow sort of channel that into, well, I have to do it because all these people are behind me. It's truly amazing. I wish next year I'm going to go.
You're going to do the Masters?
Oh, no. Danny, you have a lot of confidence in me, brother. You have a lot of confidence in me. No, I meant I was going to spectate, brother. I was going to spectate.
Oh, you were going to go. Shit, dude, no. No, you're good enough to go, man. 75 reps on the Go Fuck Yourself challenge. Oh, dude, 75 reps, dude. That's legit.
That fucking
you're good enough.
That left me in a bad place.
Weird.
That left me in a bad place. Yeah. So what about Rich Froning? I have to talk about this. The whole weekend, my crew, we basically spent the weekend at the gym. We brought in a projector and we geeked out on the CrossFit Games. And, basically spent the whole weekend in second or third place. Last day, what a clutch play. Wins every event.
His technique is just like perfect, man. Every single rep looks the same, and it's just like he just takes his foot off the gas, goes through the motions. He knows what he's got to do. It's real crisp, and he just knocks it out of the park. I really thought Khalifa was going to pull it off. I really did. I was like, holy shit, this guy's going to, he's like the underdog, and he was really kicking ass at first. Did really well in that row, and from what I've read and heard of, the bashing on Khalifa is that he doesn't have endurance. He's more of a strength guy. For him to win, the row and then get the 2K time, first place on that too, really says something about his training. But, Froning just, he's not going to go down quietly.
Yeah. No, I think his technique is flawless, but above that, something like inside of him, his gut, his heart, he just goes. The best part of the game's last event, he puts down the bar on the overhead lunges, looks over at Josh Bridges, and just smokes him to the finish line. That was the best part of the whole event.
Dude, he's a big jerk. Can he just yeah, dude, an impressive jerk at least, but my favorite part was the handstand walk, because that was the one event we tore down a bit early and we watched the men's final. And
wait, did you just say Rich Froning's a jerk?
Yeah, dude. He's just, can he just let somebody else win a little bit?
No, he smoked Ben Smith. Just ran past him on the handstand walk.
But it's like he figured it out after his 40th hand step. You know what I mean? He finally figured it out, and he's like, I'm just going to move my hands faster. And then he moved his hands faster and just went. And then, impressive. I'm just, I'm joking around. It's just like, man. dude can exercise, dude can suffer, dude can move well. This is definitely his sport. And we were joking at the booth, and people would come up, and at Power Athlete HQ, we have like a big 12-foot conference table, and we have seats all around it, and that's where we scheme and plot and bullshit. And we won't, we're thinking, I wonder if at CrossFit HQ at the games meetings, if they have like on a big whiteboard somewhere, how do we beat Rich Froning? Mm-hmm. And they're just like, how can we program to beat Rich Froning? And they just like, if that's the whole mission, or if it's, if it's just keeping it very CrossFit and just adding those new flavors, like the swimming muscle ups and I love the zigzag sprint. You could see people who knew how to run versus have never ran in nonlinear sport in their life. It's just an interesting twist this year.
Yeah, there was really everything was there. 405 pound deadlift, that in 2007, or in 2008, the programming then, was kind of, it seemed like it favored, like one year it was kind of more endurance bias, and then one year it went more strength. So you would kind of see different winners. And I think last year the programming was pretty well too, but this year they just kind of threw everything in there. And no one person wins every single event, but you play your cards right and give it your all, and hopefully you get through on your weaker events. And then when your stronger events come in, you can kick some ass. But they got 7 minutes to do 15 deadlifts, and then 10 weighted pistols with a 53-pound kettlebell. Then
an 80-foot handstand walk.
90 foot.
Was it 90 foot?
Yeah, 90 foot. Then get a minute break, and then muscle up, handstand push-ups, and then the freaking axle bar, man. We got to get one of those axle bars. Those things are badass.
Yeah, they're great.
Have those, don't you, Luke?
Oh, for sure.
For sure. You got everything in Balboa.
Yeah.
I think we have 2 or 3 of them.
Oh, Jesus.
So any chance that you're going to see axle bars in the CrossFit football programming?
It's just not practical equipment that people have. We'd love to do, because could you imagine the comments? Could you imagine the comments on front rack axle bar lunges?
How do I sub this?
But here's the thing. So let's say there's a guy out there in his garage or at his gym who has an axle bar, and you see something with a barbell come up. Try it with an axle bar. See what happens. You know what I mean? And, maybe, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, because I know there was another question. I think it was a different one that got sent in after we got the timeline together. But and we'll discuss it in the future, like how the method kind of behind adding an axle bar to the training. Just try it one day. There's testing days and there's training days. The majority of the days you follow CrossFit football are training days, and your testing days are when you're in your arena of competition, whether it's football or soccer or a weightlifting, powerlifting meet. But anyways, not to derail it, but back.
No, that's a great conversation, actually, because I think for the athlete on CrossFit football who is interested in that kind of thing, if you've got the gear, right? You could kind of cycle it in for one workout a week, or even like a couple of weeks workouts, just for, constantly varied, right?
Right. And that's not, I guess I wouldn't have anybody who's new to the program, let's say less than 20 weeks, keep them on the same stimulus, because we know it's going to be optimal. Just basic pounding with that barbell and the power lifts, the amateur progression. Do your best to follow the DWAD as prescribed. But if you've been on the program for a while, half year or a year, every once in a while, maybe once every 3 weeks, try to replicate the stimulus, but use a different toy if you have it.
Yeah. Saturdays would be good for that.
So yeah, perfect. But
I like it.
Cool.
I like it. So Steve, you want to get to Nick J's question?
Yeah, sure. So Nick J asked on the CrossFit football blogs, is it a viable option to do the SWAD and the DWAD split? Says he's short on time for a long session, but could fit 2 shorter sessions in the day, essentially splitting SWAD in the AM and DWAD in the afternoon. I kind of responded to him briefly, just saying you get the work in when you get the work in, But some of the stuff that we've talked about in the podcast, especially with John, is that, people write in saying, what about supplementary work? What about, and John always says, well, the DWAD is the supplementary work, right? Is the accessory work. It just happens to be done in a unique fashion that is 4 time or 4 rounds or what have you. And so I was just wondering what your thoughts on that would be, Luke.
Is it optimal? I don't. It depends, I guess, on you. Is how much time you have. Absolutely, it's a viable option to do SWAT and DWAD split. You should always focus. And I said this we had a SME experience, and something that's interesting is 100% effort on when we're programming or when we have an athlete in, you are trying your hardest. No matter, that's assumed, right? You're always trying your hardest. So, but the focus of your training should be the SWAT. So if you only have time for one of those, the SWAT takes precedence. Now, if you want to do the DWAD later in the day, sure, as long as you can get a solid warm up in and you're not just jumping in cold, yeah, go for it. It sounds like a viable option to me. Now, in terms of how does that change the training effect, you don't go through that movement pattern potentially in a fatigue state, and you could potentially alter any sort of lasting anabolic effects by going into a catabolic effect of exercise, right? So you won't recover from your SWAD as effectively by doing your DWAD later in the day. That's not to say that you're gonna ruin your whole training lifestyle, but try it, see how you feel, and as long as you can continue to progress and you see improvement, go for it. If maybe you do it every other day, then maybe you do a DWAD every other day. I'm not sure if that makes sense or if I communicated that right, but I mean, I'll let you guys kind of slice and dice it and give your feedback.
No, get the strength work in, and that takes priority one. And if you can only condition twice a week, so be it, right? I mean, focus on the strength work, and try your best to get the conditioning part in. I like the whole as far as like the training effect. I mean, by the time you're done with the strength work, the kind of maybe the slower movements, if they're more like the benching and the deadlifting, to do something dynamic afterwards. I mean, if you're going to come in the morning and do your strength work, and then you got to go to work, and you can, you're going to do your conditioning after work and all that. Are you going to be? Can you warm up the same way you would at the same level you would be after you've just done some squat clusters or something like that? Oh, wait, squat clusters was, you guys put that in the daily WOD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But, I think Luke has a good point about warm-ups. I hadn't even thought about that when I read this question. For an old guy like me, it takes me a long time to get warm. And it would just be faster for me. Time constraints, it would just be faster for me. It is faster for me to do it all in one session. If I had to split it up, I think ultimately the time that I would spend training would be longer, because my warm-up would have to be sufficiently long to get me in the game again. But I think like you said, Luke, focus on the SWAD and get the DWAD in when you can.
What else is interesting is ever since John talked about the circadian rhythm, I made a point to kind of research that a little bit more, so I can kind of hang in a conversation like that. Because when you and John get to specific stuff, I just kind of tend to just shut my mouth, because I that's just not my forte or whatever. But if you just wiki circadian rhythm, you get the basic clock, right? And it says that 9 or 10 in the morning is your best time to condition, and 4 or 5 p.m. would be you're at your strongest. That would be your best time to do the SWAD. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. I mean, I know I do my training more 3:30. That's kind of the off gym hours. We don't have a class coming in next till 5:30, so I can get my time in there, and I feel great doing the strength and the conditioning. At one point in my life, I did try and do these workouts at 5 or 6 in the morning, and I just didn't feel flexible, and I like to eat a few meals. Just eating a banana on the way to the gym didn't cut it. I'm definitely more of the late afternoon training guy.
Yeah.
You guys too?
Yeah.
You said something about like you
personally for me, I try to get my training done before 2 or 3, because I notice on training days, if I train past 4 p.m., even if I lay my head down on the pillow at 9 p.m., I'll lay there, stare at a dark wall until maybe 11 or 12. I just have a hard time winding down. So I like to get my training in early in the morning, and before Steve, you jump in and kind of give your deal and your opinion. What I do want to like that optimal training times. There's merit to that, but it doesn't work for everyone. And I don't want the analogy John gave on the last podcast about if you wax your car, you'll get better fuel mileage if you wax your car every day or every week. Like for most people, just get in there. And I mean, if you can get your training in when you can, and you can complete at least the SWAD, and then if you're lucky, you can get the SWAD and DWAD done in one session, and you get an adequate warm up and a solid cool down. That is going to be the 99% solution. Like everything else is just the 1%. Again, assuming you got your nutrition dialed in and you're sleeping well.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I don't know much about the demographic of CrossFit football power athlete, but I'm going to assume that maybe 99% of them are not professional athletes. So,
yeah,
you time your workouts when you can. Your body's going to adjust, and it's going to it'll alter. I mean, Luke's example is perfect. If he trains later in the day, it actually alters his circadian rhythms. And so, I mean, if you kept doing that, you would adjust. You'd probably sleep later. You'd go to bed later. All that's not ideal for your work, right? So therefore you adjust accordingly. One of the things that I do, when I hung out with Greg Glassman one time, and we talked about variability, and he said, one of the ways that you can force your body to adapt is by varying everything, not just the exercises, not just the order, not just the reps, not just the weights, but where you train, what time you train, the conditions in which you train. And this is the guys on the board make fun of me because I post like humidity and stuff like that. But I mean, those are factors, right? I mean, if I trained at elevation, when I train in the mountains just north of me, I mean, it's a whole new ball game. And when I train in the morning, it's different. When I train midday, it's different. Afternoon, it's different. I just keep note of it in my journal. But I mean, I think variability is good for training sort of the all around sort of general athlete. Like I'm training for, if I'm running down the street and there's a pickup football game and somebody's like, hey, can you play? I can't. Oh, it's not my optimal training time right now. So are you guys going to play at 2:30 p.m.? Then I can run. But if it's at 11 a.m., I can't go. I mean, I just want to be ready to go. I just want to wake up and be ready to roll and pick up heavy things and run reasonably fast and, that sort of thing. So I think for these people who are worried about time of day things and circadian rhythms, and we're talking about somebody like John, who's, a professional athlete and like has everything dialed in perfectly. Like you said, it's the 1% thing. For most of us, getting in, moving weights, doing the DWAD is going to do everything that we need to be fit, look good with our shirts off, pick up our kids and throw them over the pool or into the pool. Don't throw them over the pool. That's kind of my take on it. You want to optimize hormonal patterns, but training and eating are going to do that way more effectively than timing your training session exactly the same time every day, which I think is nearly impossible for anybody who has a job that pays.
Or kids, right?
Oh, kids, forget about it. So this is the next question, right? I mean, kids.
Perfect lead into Tom Cherrier's submission to PAHQ. He says, hi, Power Athlete Headquarters. A possible discussion point for Power Athlete Radio. I'm not sure I'm alone here. Child number 2 has just arrived. First is under 2 years old, and my training has gone on hold. Understandably, and I'm cool with that. Obviously, higher priorities are upon me. But I'm about to start back up and not sure what my priorities should be. There are 2 problems. Training time is limited. Work is also busy, in parentheses. And getting 4 good sessions with SWADs and DWADs a week is not realistic. And also my recovery ability is limited. I'm just generally tired from disturbed sleep / busy life / busy work, etc. He adds that I'm 32 years old, by the way. Goals are typical: fitter, stronger, bigger, faster. No specific sport. What have you guys done in this situation? Have you reduced everything? Have you sacrificed strength to maintain WODs and conditioning, or vice versa? Is the 488 plan suitable for me? I would love to hear your experiences and thoughts. Many thanks for the incredible resources you make available to us, Tom. There's a lot in that question.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was talking to my wife about this. She happens to be home today. We have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I asked her, she was basically pregnant for like 2 years. And I asked her, how did I make it easy on her? What she remembers of all my training, because from what I remember, what I did as far as, when she was pregnant with Zoe, our 1-year-old, obviously she would be at home with Ava. So I was like, maybe I trained more on the weekends. I felt like Saturday and Sundays, I trained both those days, and maybe like a Tuesday or a Thursday. And she felt I trained about 3 or 4 days a week. And I would try to I have a 16-year-old daughter as well. So I would try to work, if it was during the week, I would try to get my training in at a time when my other daughter was here to kind of help her out. I think it helps to have a supportive wife for sure. She knows that training for me, I don't really train for a specific sport. It's kind of just for everything. It's more of just a lifestyle. Louis Simmons, trained in your 60s, reaching your 70s, never stop. I think she knows how important that is to me, and knows that that's just kind of what I do. And she really supported me on that. And then in turn, I would support her and try to be here more during the week. On the weekends, more family would come over and I can get my training in. And you know what? If I could get 3 or 4 days in, this is real life, right? I'm not a professional athlete. I was happy with that. As far as being tired, you know how it is when those little ones come in, your sleep's kind of sporadic. I think as an adult, you're always tired. That's just part of being an adult. Even if I can go to bed at 9 o'clock and do everything right, I still get up at like 4 to coach our class in the morning. And then when I get home, the kids they're ready to rock and roll. They're up. So it's just kind of like a full day. And I don't think I'm ever not feeling tired, if that makes sense, but go in and find a way, see what options you have. And, is the 488 plan for you? I asked John that question at one point, and he says, you'll know when the 488 plan is for you, I don't know, Steve, what do you have?
I concur with the supportive partner thing. That's important. If you've been training and you're having kids, chances are, your wife or significant other is on board, or maybe even trains with you. And, one of the things I was fortunate, I have a garage gym in addition to like the real gym. So sleep training for your children is essential. Get those kids to be able to sleep through anything. So you can be out in the garage, you drop the barbell, you drop kettlebell, don't have to worry about them waking up. You can grab, 60, 90 minutes of training then. Kids don't care if you pick them up from their nap and you're covered in sweat and chalk. They think it's cool. And then the other thing is, be smart. Kids are a stress, and lack of sleep is stress, and hard job is stress. And your body doesn't know how to do anything with stress except deal with stress. In other words, if a stress comes from me kicking you in the shins or from your boss making you work late, your body just knows that as stress. Training is another stressor. So one of the is it better to keep working out 6 days a week or 5 days a week under these kind of conditions, which might be stressful and your sleep is perturbed? Probably not. So cut it back. Be smart. Pay attention to things like your performance. If you try to force 5 days, and this is what I did initially, tried to like squeeze it in here and there, and I realized that it's just not working. My shoulder's hurting. I'm getting weaker in this one. Cut it back. Let your recovery catch up to your stress levels. And then, there'll be a time when those kids are old enough that you can take them to the gym and they can go like play with the medicine balls or something, and you can go get your training in. But one of his questions that I think we already addressed is, do you sacrifice the SWOD for the conditioning? And I think we've addressed that. It was, if you can get anything in, maintain that strength. Conditioning can be recovered. I mean, I don't know anything about Tom here, but assuming he's in reasonably good shape, conditioning can be recovered in about 2 to 4 weeks in most cases, to a reasonable level. Strength, you just want to keep adding and building strength. As far as everything I've read and understand is that you don't want to stop on your strength progression. So, I mean, I feel you, Denny. I had at the time, I chuckle a little bit now, but at the time I had what I thought was an understanding partner, and I trained a little bit. But the other thing I did was I overtrained at one point, and I tore my bicep tendon. And that sucked because that meant two things. I couldn't do a pull-up for almost 10 months, let alone pick anything up heavy. And I also couldn't really contribute to my household because it was my left hand, and I'm left-handed. So playing with my son or doing chores I looked like an idiot because I can't do much with my right hand. So, I mean, be smart about it. Cut the days down, focus on, that would be my advice. I mean, Luke's the expert, but, pay attention to your stress levels. Nights that you get good sleep, try and get a good training session in. Pay attention to strength sessions. Get conditioning in when you can.
Luke, I know in the past you've said, that your work schedule can fill up and you can be pretty hectic, and you've said, I had to put my training on hold, and then a couple weeks to go by, and we'll be talking, before we get on air, and you'll be talking about how you and Ben just killed it. So there's times when you gotta, sacrifice and just kind of deal with life, and then it seems like, things change and you'll be able to get your training in. What's your opinion on that?
What we've tested and tried out is the idea that you have a harder time recovering from volume than you do intensity, all things considered equal. Okay. The higher volume induces more stress response. And that's, Steve, I like the kick in the shin versus, a boss's proverbial kick to the ass. Regardless, it's stress. I don't have kids. I have 2 dogs. They're pretty quiet. Lifestyles changed considerably since I moved out to Southern California. But in my prior life, I can, sleep was short. I coached the 6 a.m. class. I coached till 9 p.m. I had a full-time job. I worked through the weekends. It was all, and I did what Steve did and just muscled through it. And I was miserable. So understanding that the volume is a hard piece to recover from, all things considered equal, bang some weights. Even if it's and listen to your body. I remember I haven't listened to Rob's podcast in a while, but his big deal was, how do you look, feel, and perform? Like that should be your holy trinity, right? How do I look? Look pretty decent. How am I feeling? Feeling really tired. How am I performing? I'm weak as shit. Then you probably have too much stress, and it's just, you got to curtail the volume, lift some weights a couple days a week, maybe do some walking, and find some time to sleep. But that's my input on that. There's other factors there, like you said, the little ones, being present, family time. I know John makes being around for bath time and dinner time and all this stuff and breakfast time. He makes that the priority, and that's what his training schedule is all around. So, it's where your moral compass will guide you. I mean, it's as long as you. It's funny because people make this a part of their lifestyle, and but if you miss a couple days or a couple weeks, the weights aren't going away. It's going to be harder to get back into it. Everybody dreads the first 2 or 3 weeks, right? But they're always going to be there, and you're always going to be an adaptive organism. And in terms of your life cycle as an adult, whether or not it's the introduction of a kid, maybe it's a catastrophic injury, maybe it's just getting older, your goals are eventually going to shift. And you're gonna look at yourself in the mirror and go, do I really need to squat 500 pounds and bench 400 pounds? Or like, should I just get some good sleep and maybe train if I'm feeling the mojo tomorrow? So it's just kind of step back, reassess. What are you training for?
What are you training for?
Yeah, I like that. What are you training for? That's right. I mean, if you're training to squat 500 pounds, you're in a different place than if you're squatting just to be able to run around with your kids.
Yeah. So like, Tom says, I want to be fitter, stronger, bigger, faster. Everybody does. But, one thing to, are you getting bigger, stronger, and faster? How do you know? And that's easy. Like, if you want to know if you're getting stronger, are you lifting more weights in your lifts? Are you able to keep up with the DWADs and the prescribed scaled on the DWADs and improve your times? Are you getting faster? Okay, let's measure your 40. Let's measure your hundreds. Let's do some change of direction, some ladder stuff. Like, you can quantify all that. What are your benchmarks? What are you trying to beat? What are you trying to hit? What's acceptable? What's your goals? That type of stuff. So maybe that could be an exercise for them too, and say, okay, where am I at? What's realistic? Now I'm going to try and measure this every once in a while and see if I'm actually getting to where I need to be.
Yeah, I like Steve. I like what you said too about the garage work, because I don't have the type of garage setup that you do, but I have parallettes. I got a 20-pound med ball. I have some kettlebells. I got some stuff I can pick up. I can sprint. I have a jump rope. I can do handstand push-ups. So I now that I think back on the times, of my wife's pregnancies, and, there was times where I had to do like the garage workout, 15-minute AMRAP, try to hit the same stimulus that is in the CrossFit football programming. Lift something heavy, try to keep the Metcons, 15 minutes or less, and, don't obsess over it. I know we're kind of like a culture of obsessing over everything. All three of us can look through the CrossFit football comments and see how obsessive some of these people can be. And, it just take a step back, enjoy your life. There is more to life than just training. And I say that as a person who, trust me, there's times where I'm having conversations with people, or even my wife, and I'm sure she can hear me saying this. She'll be talking to me and I'm listening to her, and in my mind I'm thinking, okay, clean and jerk 235 pounds tomorrow. I'm going to try and hit that 500 pounds. And then she'll be like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, what?
Nice.
Sleeping on the couch for the night. But I mean, my point is yeah, training's a big part of my life too, but you know what? I don't want to miss my kids growing up. And Steve, you said that. I mean, there's going to come a, they're only going to be 1 and 2, for a certain part of time. And then you can kind of bring them with you and, just kind of find a way, Tom, find a way to get in what you can, and everything will be okay. And then, the kids grow up fast anyway, or they're 16 years old and they want gas money,
Yeah. Well said, Denny. Well said. Yeah.
Cool. Well, guys, we're at 45 minutes.
Sounds good.
Did we lose Luke? Is Luke falling asleep?
No, I'm here just dreading the future.
Nice.
I mean, between you two, Denny's like the Brady Bunch of women over in his house, and John with the twins who are hilariously destructive and noisy. It's like, why would anyone do this? But then I know everybody always gives me, but like, you have to experience it to see. It's the best, the best thing you could ever ask for is your own child and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. It really does disrupt your social life, your training life. Like, man, what are you, crazy? But
hey, who knows? What is the typical life of Luke Summers?
What do I do?
What's a day in the life of Luke Summers? If we YouTubed it, what would it be like, Luke? you know.
Well, I usually wake up, flex in the mirror, picture like the new Superman movie. That's the build I have under my CrossFit football shirts. But no, dude, I live under an airport, and they start flying at 7 a.m. So I'm up every day at 7 once a plane flies over. Usually on the email, either on my phone or on my computer, answering some emails, getting the day planned, and then it's a text out to John like, "What's the plan for today?" And he usually responds the same things every day, trying to take over the world. Nice. And we just keep on going. But then 2.5 hours of training for myself, and then I coach about 5 hours a week. We have 5 trainers at the gym, so we got to split the time. And then basically follow up and help administer the CrossFit football certs, moderate Power Athlete HQ content, get on these podcasts, let you guys kind of steer me in the right direction with this stuff. And that's my life, man. But
why do you live under an airport, bro?
Dude, this, because this was the right layout. And I live with my girlfriend. She's my domestic partner, and she had a vision on what the house needs to look like. And conveniently enough, she's the Sandman. You could throw her on like a bobsled and she could fall asleep. You know what I mean? And so she's like, "You hear the airplanes in the morning?" Like, "Yeah, how do you not? They're buzzing the chimney." And but she sleeps through it, and I call her the starfish too. So she takes up like 80% of the bed. And then we have 2 dogs. It's like, I have a rough life, guys. I'm telling you.
Yeah. That reminds me, I know it, like back in 2002, 2003, when I first moved back to Illinois, my daughter and I rented a house like 50 yards away from train tracks, man. And we're not talking like, the Metro. We're talking like freight trains, 150 freight trains, 2 o'clock in the morning. And we were like a block away from the crossing rails or whatever. So they have to beat their horn every time they come close to that.
Yeah.
And it was just awful. I eventually got used to it, believe it or not, but it would just shake the whole house. And I can imagine what living under an airport would be like.
Yeah, and I know like 7 a.m. doesn't sound like a big deal. That's actually, that is sleeping in for a lot of the people in the fitness industry. But where it comes into play is if we travel east. If we travel east for a cert, we typically don't get home till 2:30 or 3 in the morning. And I'll tell you what, man, 4 hours of sleep on a Sunday will ruin me personally till Thursday. And then if you have 2 certs in a row, that's 2 weeks where you're basically useless in terms of your training, and there's a perfect example. Like if that happens and I'm completely dragging, I'm lifting weights. I'm squatting twice a week, doing a press, doing a pull. I try not to Metcon, but sometimes you get roped into it, peer pressure, and at the end of the day, it's a piece of my training that I do need to work on. So
if you're complaining about being up at 7 a.m., don't have kids.
Yeah, dude. I know. But most days it's fine. It's just the biggest, like I said, after a long weekend, it'd be nice to stay in bed till 9. I got the blackout curtains, I got the white noise, I got everything. But I cannot imagine going week after week on less than 7 hours of sleep, day in and day out. That sounds awful.
When you have a kid, any of the Power Athlete Nation out there, like I'm telling you, post your experience to the CrossFit Football blog or something, because when you have a newborn, Denny, you can relate. I was like a zombie for easily 4 months, and my son didn't sleep through the night until he was like 6 months old. And I remember, so I went through like when you're on the highway and your highway hypnosis, you're like, oh, that's my exit. That was my life. I'd go in, I'd be like, is today Monday? Did I teach my classes? Like, what happened today? Just total zombie state. I don't know if you had the same experience, Denny, but I remember that being probably the most horrible time of my life with respect to sleep, and saying over and over again that with respect to children, one and done, baby. One and done.
Yeah.
Our first baby, Ava, she really didn't sleep through the night till she was almost 1, dude. and not up every other hour like a hungry baby. It would just be like at 3:00 she would get up, and
be ready to go.
And be ready to go. Yeah. And, the first 3 months when they're feeding, it was like my wife breastfed. So, yeah, she had to actually get up and do it. But, me being the nice guy, the supportive husband, I would kind of like stay up, rub her back, get her a pillow, kind of do something like that. And then I would try to roll over and go to sleep. But you really can't, because your mind's elsewhere. And me, I'm the kind of person, like, if I get up and it's like 10 minutes or so or longer, I'm kind of up for a while, then I lay in the dark room, just kind of stare at the ceiling. And, I just kind of dealt with that and just pushed through it, naps. If you work 8 to 5, obviously you're not going to be able to get a nap in, but, I know when I worked a corporate lifestyle, they gave us an hour lunch and go walk out in the car, set your clock for 20 minutes, take a nap in the car, do what you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to take a little flack here for this one, but I mean, evolutionarily, women are designed to be woken up by nursing children. But
Playtech, I think you've said enough. And that is science at its best. That sounds like men should move out, get their own apartment for about 8 months, and then come back when the kid sleeps.
That's what I'm saying. That's a perfect translation of what I was about to say.
I guess on that note,
note, maybe we should say out of here.
Yeah, I gotta buzz back. We have a guest from Australia. He works out of CrossFit. Give him cold steel. Daz puts out a program out of Australia for games competitors, but he's got a physio there, and he's visiting with John for the week, giving him some guidance on how he could fix his skeletons that he's earned from his 10 years in the NFL. So I think I've left them together for like 4 hours now. I got to make sure this guy's still alive.
Sounds good.
But
all right, gentlemen, we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. As always, awesome. And we'll talk later.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.
Take care.